What's good, y'all? And welcome to another preseason preview video. In this one, we're going over the OKC Thunder. Even though he's in a Houston jersey on this shirt, I still had to rep my boy Russell Westbrook here for OKC. One of the best to ever put that jersey on. But in case this is your first preseason preview video of mine that you're seeing, basically what I'm going to be going over is every move that OKC made in the offseason so far, and then peek into the future and see what we can expect from this team heading into this next season. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. Leave a like on this one, and let's get right into the key additions OKC made this offseason. Sam Presti and the Thunder were very aggressive this offseason, bringing in two of the top role players in the entire league. They went out and traded for Alex Caruso and then signed Isaiah Hartenstein as a free agent. OKC trading for Alex Caruso was the first big Woj bomb of the offseason, and when it first happened, I loved the move, and now I still absolutely love the move. Caruso is an all-defensive guard that is regarded as one of the best, if not the absolute best, perimeter defender in the entire NBA. When he steps on the court, he's giving you 110% and clamping whoever is in front of him. He's got good size for a guard at 6'6". He's pretty strong in his stature as well. He'll poke the ball out, force turnovers left and right. Really is just super aggressive and physical on defense, and I love that he's going to be able to come over here in OKC and continue wrecking havoc on the defensive end. And on offense, he's no slouch either. He's a pretty decent secondary playmaker. He can knock down the three ball pretty well too, coming off a 40% shooting year for the Bulls last season. He's just one of those guys that will kind of do whatever it takes to win and do whatever it takes to impact the game positively. He does it 99% of the time. And speaking of guys that impact the game immensely, Isaiah Hartenstein coming over as a free agent. Was it a overpay? Yes. Does that matter though? I don't really think so. He's on the team regardless, and he is ready to impact winning over here. As a Knicks fan, I can tell you firsthand that Isaiah Hartenstein, when he steps on the court, is going to make whatever play is necessary to help the team win, whether that's rebounding, which he is amazing at, especially offensive rebounding, blocking shots, passing, cutting, setting screens, whatever it is. Isaiah will do that to the best of his ability, and it's usually pretty good. Last season, OKC seemed to struggle with rebounding, and they also didn't have like a true center behind Chet. Jay Will is a little bit undersized if you ask me, so bringing in a guy like Isaiah to come in and check off those boxes definitely helps. Of course, you can't bring in guys without losing some, so let's take a look at the guys that OKC lost this offseason. The Thunder didn't lose too many people this offseason, but they did have to include Josh Giddey in the trade package for Alex Caruso, so Josh will be playing for the Chicago Bulls next season. After OKC lost to the Mavs in the playoffs last season, it seemed very obvious that Josh Giddey would not be on the team for very long. And I don't think that's because Josh is a bad player. Obviously, he has parts of his game that are bad and he needs to work on to improve as a player and become more of a complete player. I just feel like he kind of fell out of the plans for OKC as OKC kind of accelerated their contention process. Josh was drafted as a project player. He was drafted off of the idea of what he could maybe become in the future. And when OKC drafted him, they were a rebuilding team. They were very early in their rebuild, and they just wanted to get talent on the roster. But as things went on and the Thunder started to really lock into roster construction, other guys seemed to take the ball out of Josh's hands and didn't really give him that ability to develop as a player. Of course, Shea breaking out as an MVP candidate, that probably wasn't on the Thunder's minds when they drafted Josh. He takes the ball out of Josh's hands. Jalen Williams coming in as such a high-impact rookie and becoming even better in year 2 definitely takes the ball out of Josh's hands. Chet Holmgren coming in as a rookie and also, like Jalen Williams, being such a high-impact rookie, takes the ball out of his hands. Gives just less shots to go around, and Josh Giddey is a guy that needs the ball in his hands. So I'm sure Josh will be able to turn around in Chicago with more of an opportunity, less high stakes, must win now basketball opportunities for him there. It allows him to really just mature as a player. With all that being said though, Josh being off the roster and now having Caruso take his minutes, the Thunder objectively got better. But now that we know who came and who went, let's take a look at a potential rotation for the Thunder. The starting lineup largely stays the same as it was last season, except we are, of course, slotting in Alex Caruso into that starting lineup, alongside with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. And then off the bench, you see a lot of familiar faces as well, including Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams, and the new addition of Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, I don't want to make any definitive claims or anything, but when I look at that roster right there, that 10-man rotation, that might be the best 9 to 10-man rotation in the entire NBA. I would fully trust all 10 of those players in a playoff series, which I don't think a lot of other teams can say they have 10 players like that. When you have so much depth like that, though, things can get a little weird in the lineups. For example, I'm not entirely sure if that starting lineup with Caruso and the rest of the guys would be the starting lineup. They could take Caruso out, kind of slide everyone up a position, and put Isaiah Hartenstein in the starting lineup, because they are paying him almost $30 million, and that is a very steep price for a backup center. I could definitely see them doing that. Maybe they start both of their new additions and bring Lou Dort off the bench. They have a lot of versatility in this lineup, which definitely is a good thing. Regardless of who starts, though, I do think that their closing lineup would look something like Shai, Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, Chet, and Isaiah Hartenstein. And I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like absolute hell for the opposing team. The connectivity of that team sounds amazing. The spacing looks good. The defense is out of this world. The size is incredible. But even if you think beyond that, there's some other cool lineups that I think they could be running. Is obviously a lot of that double big where you have Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. The other 3 people on the court, you can kind of swap in and out, but I really like the size and the defense that brings. Going kind of the opposite direction, I could see them running some 3-guard lineups with Cason Wallace, Shai, and Alex Caruso. The defensive versatility of all 3 of those guys, they can switch 1 through 3. Shai and Alex Caruso, especially with their size, can guard 1 through 3. Alex Caruso maybe even 1 through 4 if you want to stretch it a little bit. But I really like the versatility of the guys that they have here. A lot of their depth pieces, you can very easily see them kind of swap in and out of lineups and still not lack much of anything. And now that we have an idea of what this team could look like, let's take a look at some of their strengths. Defense is definitely going to be what the Thunder rely on the most this season. Here you can see majority of their rotational players, along with the amount of stocks they averaged last season. In case you don't know, that's steals plus blocks, alongside their height. The Thunder have great positional size basically across the board. I already kind of mentioned the tallness of their starting backcourt of Shai and Alex Caruso, both being 6'6". Then they also have 2 true 7-footers with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. Their wings have pretty decent size too. The smallest guy in their rotation is Lou Dort at 6'3". But I don't know about you guys, I am not calling Lou Dort small. He may only be 6'3", but he is super dense and stocky and strong. He's definitely not a mismatch where you look at Lou Dort and you say, oh, I got a baby in the house. No, you do not. That is a grown man. But the Thunder legitimately have 7 to 8 above average defenders. It's not like they only have size, because just because you're big doesn't mean you can defend. They have super solid above average defenders, and even on top of that, some elite level defenders. When you talk about a defensive lineup of Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and Chet, or if you want to slot out and get super big with it, Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, oh my god, I legitimately don't know how you would score on that lineup, respectfully. And a lot of these guys on the Thunder are really good at forcing turnovers and getting their long arms in the passing lanes and getting deflections and all that. Adding Alex Caruso is only going to help that. Adding Isaiah Hartenstein is only going to help that. I really think that the Thunder can have the best defense in the whole NBA this season. Of course, no team is perfect though, so let's take a look at some of the weaknesses of this Thunder team. Here you can see the Thunder's rotational players that average the most assists per game. Of course, you have your top players like SGA and J-Dub, but beyond that, it gets pretty shaky, including 3 centers in their top 6. Now, I'm gonna be honest, when I was thinking of the weakness of this Thunder team, it was kind of hard to think of one. I really do love the roster construction of this team. I feel like they can do a little bit of everything. They have pretty much all their bases covered. But if I'm nitpicking, I would say they do kind of lack a on-ball creator besides Shai and J-Dub. And I know those two are really good at creating for themselves and also creating for others with the ball in their hands. but beyond that, they really don't have much. Now, I will say Isaiah Hartenstein and Jay Will are both good playmakers for their position at that center spot, and I do think that the Thunder could run some type of offense through them. But when you're looking more out of a perimeter perspective, besides Shea and J-Dub, there really is not much. Alex Caruso is solid and can definitely run some point guard minutes, but I wouldn't be too happy having to rely on Alex Caruso to initiate our offense possession after possession. And when you look at guys off their bench, Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins are both more play finishers than playmakers, if that makes sense. They're more of the guy that Shea will set them up in the corner, catch and shoot, finish the play like that, or J-Dub will drive to the basket, kick it back out, pump fake, drive there, and score off that. They really are better as players that get set up to score instead of setting up some other players or setting themselves up. The guy off the bench that I'm looking to really step up and become more of a on-ball creator is Cason Wallace. I felt like we saw little flashes of it in his rookie season, the limited minutes he really got there. I feel like he can really break out more and become more of a on-ball threat, both creating for himself and then also creating for others. I feel like now that Josh Giddey's gone, some of those ball handling duties could be deferred onto Cason. I do think they'll also give some of that to Caruso because he can do it. But I really would like the Thunder to really have one more guy like Cason step up and show that he can handle the ball more. And now it is time for the fan segment here. Representing OKC, I have my boy Prhymate. Thank you for coming on the channel, man. I appreciate it.
What's up, you? What's up, bro?
If you guys do not already subscribe to his channel, it's right in the description below. He makes a bunch of great content. Also, his Twitter's down there. Make sure you follow him on there. But we might as well get right into it, man. First question I want to ask, OKC has been very aggressive in this offseason. What has been your personal favorite move they made so far?
Obviously, I loved the pickups of getting guys like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins back on, good deals for them, but also good deals for the team as well. That's always great, keeping those guys that you develop. But man, it's a really obvious answer because there's two. The first one I'll do is obviously the Caruso and Giddey trade. J-Dub and Chet, to me, really just are the ones that kind of forced that trade, just because I expected both to be very good. I did not expect them to both be as good as they were as quickly as they were. And I think Dub especially, just like he went from like halfway through his rookie year, you can see the flashes and you're like, hey, this guy's going to be pretty good. And then the second half of the year, he looked like an all-star his rookie year. And then, I'm thinking, well, maybe he's not going to be that player all of 20. No, he's really that player. He's really that player all of 2024. And I think that just changes what your priorities are in terms of what you want in the backcourt next to Shea. And then on top of that, right, Giddey is and has always been a point guard. Like he's a playmaker. He wants the ball in his hands. And with Shea, you already have an MVP candidate. You already have an elite secondary guy in J-Dub. And then on top of that, you have Chet, who already looked like an elite third scorer in his rookie year. So it's like you're trying to find time to get Giddey the ball, and it just becomes less and less likely that that's the way it's going to happen. And so you're in that trade, you give Chicago a chance to invest in somebody that has some real talent with the ball in his hands. And for that, not only do you get a guy in Alex Caruso, who to me may be the best and most valuable defensive guard in the NBA the last few seasons. Like he's at worst up there. I can't think of two names I'd rather have. And then a guy who's 38% career three-point shooter. And last year, he was up around, I want to say 5 attempts on 41%. And even when you watch Bulls games as well, like so much of his game is just predicated on being smart with his energy. Like he's giving a lot of energy throughout the game, but he's so efficient in how he uses it. Like there's not a lot of wasted movement in his game on either end. So it's like to get a guy of that caliber in the backcourt when you already have Lou Dort, you already have Cason Wallace, you already have Aaron Wiggins. it feels like cheating, low-key. And mind you, right? Because like you said, Sam Presti went crazy this offseason. Caruso's not even my favorite pickup this summer. Like, I don't even, you're a Knicks fan. I don't have to tell you about Hartenstein. Like, that's one of the better bigs in the NBA. Like, just straight up. He's such a, like, my biggest concern, and if you follow me on Twitter at all while I was live tweeting through this Thunder year, rebounding. Like, it was my biggest concern going into the regular season. It was my biggest concern in the playoffs. And in my opinion, it actually probably was one of the bigger reasons that we lost that series. I did feel like the Mavericks controlled the boards a little bit better in the series, where a couple of boards could have decided, we could have had a different series with a couple different possessions because of how close it was. And in Hartenstein, you not only address the rebounding concern by basically himself, like him by himself takes that issue off the board for you. You also take some of that physical pressure off of Chet and allow him to be what he wants to be more on both ends of the floor. And on top of that, you address that backup center position as well, because you're always going to be able to play one of them. So I'm excited to see them both play together. I think Hartenstein's ability to set screens is going to be huge for Shea too. Like, I can't wait to see what level Shea gets to with a real, because he's just isolating on guys. Like, we run a lot of guard screens the last few years. Hartenstein is really the first physical big. Like, I think of it as Steven Adams. So it's like, there might be another level Shea gets to because of Hartenstein. There might be another level Chet gets to because of Hartenstein. And then, on top of that, man, he's just having a guy like that, and the defense and the rebound. And then on top of that, that floater and the pick and roll, bro. Oh, it's so pretty. I watching him get that over bigs all year is in my team's jersey. I can't wait, bro. Can't wait.
For sure. Both of those guys, in Caruso and Hartenstein, some of the best, if not the best, role players in the NBA, both at the guard and the center position.
Without giving up a pick.
Yes. You just Josh Giddey for him, straight up, for Alex Caruso. Insane value there. And then, you could say what you want about the value of the Hartenstein contract. Regardless, he's on the team and he's going to be able to make an impact. Exactly.
He's going to be worth every penny if you're asking me. Like, if you're trying to go win a championship, man, that's the type of big you want on your roster.
Yes, it's go big or go home, and I feel like both of these guys are definitely going to be huge impacts on this roster, both defensively, offensively. They're both super high effort, high energy, high IQ players, which are all really important to have on a championship contending team. I definitely like both of those pickups for you guys a lot. I feel like it could definitely elevate you.
Yeah, and like you said, man, really natural fits to what they like to do and how they like to play. Like, really, those guys are not going to care about minutes. They're just going to go out there and hoop. And so, like, you add that to a core of guys who's already like that, who's already focused and already just, lost in the second round. They're hungry. I love it, man. I love it.
Great moves by you guys, for sure. One of the best off seasons out of the whole NBA, if you ask me. Moving on to this next question, though. Going into this season, who do you think is the most underrated player on the team?
So I thought about this one, and I struggled with it because I feel like OKC is a threat in the West, and I also feel like everybody kind of understands that already. Like, I think J-Dub gets his respect as a second option offensively, and we all see his potential. I feel like Lou Dort gets his respect as a perimeter defender. Kaysen got his respect as a rookie guard. Isaiah Joe, and even Aaron Wiggins was probably the answer. Like, if you had asked this like 5 months ago, but he played well enough on a good enough team that it's the cat's out of the bag there a little bit, Like, I've always felt like if you're the guy that everybody picks as the most underrated player in the NBA, you can't be the most underrated player in the NBA no more. You gotta give the title up. So it's kind of cheating, but my answer is Chet. Because I don't see a reason why he can't be like a top 15, top 20 guy next year. We're talking about one of the most valuable defenders in the NBA, for one of the better defenses in the NBA, one of the best defenses in the NBA. A dude who was an efficient 3-level scorer for the entire season, spaced the floor as a stretch big, was creating buckets for himself in flashes in the mid-range, off of one leg, off of two. He's coming off of pin downs at times. And on top of that, there's an entire like aspect of his game as an above the rim like spacer in that way, like a vertical threat that like OKC not having the best playmakers on ball, at least last year, we didn't even get to see it. So it's like, it's on one hand, I'm like, man, I might be going too far, and I really might. Chet really might not, like the vision of the player I'm seeing might not ever come together. But it's like, if you wanted everything I would have needed to see to have him have that sort of elite ceiling, I've seen already. And it's like, why can't he be some like unholy combination of AD's defense and KD's offense? Like it sounds like an unfair player, but then you watch him play and it's like, if this guy gets his handle a little tighter, if that shot gets a little bit quicker, if he gets a little stronger, everything else you would need to see is kind of there already. So it's like, I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit, but man, I was as hyped for Chet as I've ever been for anybody in Thunder jersey, and he just blew every expectation I had just completely out of the water. So if he does that again, he might. I'm setting the bar super high this year, just so at the very least I can kind of see his ceiling a little bit more realistically, I think.
I feel you. You're talking to someone that is also super, super high on Chet. And I feel like he had the misfortune of being in the rookie class with Victor Wembanyama, the biggest rookie phenom we've seen since LeBron James. So right. I feel like it takes the focus away from the fact that Chet also had one of the best rookie seasons we've seen. Like a very high level defensively impact. You touched upon the offensive flashes that he's shown, and the fact that he's able to be a starter and such a big contributor on the number one seed in the West. No one really talked about it like that. And I could kind of see where you're coming from with that underratedness for Chet. And I feel like hopefully people start to realize it as he solidifies himself more as that top center in the NBA. My choice, and you kind of called it out for there, it was Aaron Wiggins for this underrated, just because I truthfully think he could be one of the best role players in the NBA, being that 3-and-D role. And he's not a name that would like jump out at you when you're thinking or talking about the top role players. But I mean, like you said, you guys are kind of getting your recognition right now, so it was a little bit hard to pick a solidified guy.
Yeah, I'm fine with Aaron getting that love and getting more love, because like he's been a positive part of that group really since he got to OKC. And so it's really dope to be able to, like, I was watching him in his rookie year and seeing like the potential of what he could be. Like, hey, this guy's kind of nice. And seeing him not just carve out a role, but legitimately make that role his own on an elite team. Just, you know, really, really dope to see the love. So I'm fine with him getting that love too. Shout out Aaron.
Shout out Aaron for sure. And lastly, real quick before we get you out of here, like I said, you guys were the 1 seed last season. Expectations are through the roof. What are your expectations specifically for OKC?
Very, very unsurprising, but I want some hardware, man. Like I love hearing all the talk about, you know, how great our young core is, how many picks we got for the future. I love it. I love all positive OKC propaganda on this side. But at the same time, man, there comes a time where everything's set up and you got to go get it. And so I'm excited to see. I think I'm excited to see it because to me, that level of focus, I've seen that from them since 2022. Like to me, the way they were competing in those games in 2022 and the way they were executing on both ends and executing the system and looking out for each other, even as young players making mistakes, to me, that had the focus that I want to see from that team in that position. And then last year, I was expecting a little jump up from that, and they went and got the number 1 seed. Like, so it's like, I don't care personally about the number 1 seed. If they're young enough and deep enough that they're probably just gonna moonwalk their way to a top 1, top 2, top 3 seed. That I'm not as focused on. To me, it's like, I'm going to be looking at the minutia. I'm going to be looking at the development. It's obvious, but it's not championship or bust, but also it's championship or bust, man. Like I've seen a lot of great teams at OKC. I'm ready for some hardware. I want to, I want to go to a championship parade. So I think those guys have the right focus. I think everybody has the right intention and attitude based off of last year. And I think the new guys that we brought in are going to add to what was a great team last year. We'll see what it looks like in April or May, but I think they have as good a chance as anybody.
For sure. The expectations are definitely there. Thank you again for coming on. I want to remind you guys again, if you're not already subscribed and following his YouTube and his Twitter, links are right in the description. I appreciate you very much, Prhymate. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, bros.
And now it is time to talk about the ceiling, the floor, and my expectations for the OKC Thunder. Starting off with the ceiling, as always, I think that this team's ceiling is NBA champions. I know they're still a super young team, and it doesn't have to come this season, but I think they are able to do it. They're coming off a season where they were just the 1 seed out west in a very competitive Western Conference, and they got objectively better. I really could see them going out and becoming the 1 seed again. Home court advantage throughout the playoffs. They have a little bit more experience this time. I think that they can really win the NBA championship. Then when you look at the floor for the OKC Thunder, I could see them falling as far as the 4 seed. That would still give them home court advantage in the playoffs, and I do think they would win their first round matchup. When it comes to that second round, though, that's when things get a little bit shaky. I could definitely see them being a second round exit again. When it comes to my expectations, though, I definitely think that this Thunder team could repeat as the number 1 seed. If they don't, it's not the end of the world, but I do definitely see them being a top 3 seed for sure. Then when it comes to playoffs, I think that they're a Western Conference Finals team. I'm not going to say that they'll win it and make it to the finals and all that, but I think they will definitely make it there and be competitive. What do you guys think, though? Let me know what you think of the Thunder down below. Where do you think they will end up falling in the standings, and how far will they make it in the playoffs? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.